Good evening, you're watching another edition of News Night. My name is Athar Khan and today we discuss the Election Commission. More specifically, what political parties, 21 in number, want the Election Commission to do as far as the EVMs or electronic voting machines are concerned, or more specifically, if we go further, what the VVPAT trails should entail. Now, we know this has been hanging fire for a very long time. Political parties had earlier in March also went to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court turned their particular request down, which was to make sure there is manual counting of at least 50% of all VVPAT trails or VVPAT machines being used. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is important to know. For the first time in a Lok Sabha general elections, VVPAT trails have been used in some by-elections for Lok Sabha as well as some assembly state elections as well. But this is for the first time on a mass large scale that VVPAT trails would be used all across the country in a general election. What is the grouse of these opposition parties, totaling 21 in number? They include parties like the DMK, they include parties like Chandrababu Naidu's Telugu Desam, CPIM, NCP of Sharad Pawar, including other major opposition parties as well. They want and have alleged at different points in the lead up to this general election of either malfunctioning or the threat of tampering. Now, the Election Commission has steadfastly said that this is not possible, this is not true. There might be some malfunctioning, but that's a routine in terms of EVMs, and they say there is absolutely no chance of tampering with the EVMs. Now, I'm going to try and focus really not just on the EVM controversy that has surrounded this election, but also on the Election Commission's role as well. There has been so much written, so much said about the role or the partiality or impartiality of the Election Commission during these elections. A lot of ink has been spent. If you will, we'll try and speak to our guests today on a range of these topics connected to not just the EVMs, but also the Election Commission and their conduct of these 2019 general elections. But first, we'll take a look at some reactions that came in today after the 21 parties went to the Election Commission again with their renewed request. Take a look at this.
When Supreme Court decided to put VVPAT along with EVMs, that means there was a doubt on the malfunctionings of EVMs. Why should those EVMs put at the cost of 18,000 crores not be counted? Simple question. And number two, have we not seen that everywhere wherever there is a EVM malfunctioning or a mock test, votes only go in favor of BJP? Should they not be now verified through a counting of VVPAT? Otherwise, why have VVPATs? That's the simple question. And that's the reason for seeking review.
जो खराब मशीन को ठीक कर सकता है, वो ठीक मशीन को खराब भी कर सकता है। पूरा देश ये मांग कर रहा है कि ईवीएम के साथ जो वीवीपैट मशीन लगी है उससे पर्ची निकले, ताकि मतदाता को ये मालूम हो कि उसने जिसको मत दिया है वो मत उसी खाते में गया है।
जो भी 21 हैं, 22 हैं, 2 हैं, 4 हैं, वो इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है। इम्पोर्टेंट ये है कि क्या ये चुनाव से पहले ही अपनी हार मार के बैठ गए हैं क्या? चुनाव से पहले ही इतनी हताशा जो दिखाई पड़ रही है कि वो एक वीवीपैट पर जो है या जो है ईवीएम पर जो है वो ठीकरा फोड़ने की जो तैयारी कर रहे हैं, उससे एक बात तो बहुत साफ देश को समझ में आ रही है कि इन्हें ज़मीन की हकीकत और ज़मीन की सच्चाई का एहसास हो चुका है।
Joining me tonight is Mr. Vivek Silas of the Samajwadi Party, Shahid Siddiqui, senior journalist, political analyst, and from the BJP, Mr. Narendra Taneja. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here on News Night. I'd like to start with Mr. Shahid Siddiqui, if I could. Mr. Siddiqui, the fact that opposition parties have routinely questioned the EVMs, they've routinely questioned the functioning of the EVM. They went to the Supreme Court, at least got not just one EVM out of one assembly segment, but 5 now. The Supreme Court rejected their demand as far as 50% manual counting of the VVPAT is concerned. Now, most political leaders that I spoke of earlier today, including Sharad Pawar, including Chandrababu Naidu and many others, say that this is a reasonable demand. After all, accountability is what the Election Commission should stand for and must stand for. Is the reticence of the Election Commission by way of giving, I won't call them excuses, but reasonings that they need more staff power, more manpower, it will lead to a delay. Are those acceptable reasons for anyone who's looking for accountability and transparency as far as India's electoral process is concerned? Having 50% manual counting of VVPATs, isn't that a reasonable demand, Mr. Siddiqui?
I don't know whether it's reasonable or not, but what I feel is that elections should not only be impartial, be transparent, but also it should satisfy most of the political parties participating in the elections. If the parties have raised doubts, then I feel that Election Commission should go ahead, if not 50%, then say maybe 20%. And if it takes 2 days more, it's a huge, long election, it takes 2 months. So if it takes 2 months and 2 days more, it does not matter. But that will satisfy everyone, because the doubts have not been raised just because some people are losing. In 2009, BJP raised the same doubts. GVL wrote a book on the malfunctioning of the EVMs. Since then we have VVPATs now, but even there people are not very happy, because it has come to our notice time and again that whenever a machine goes wrong, then it votes for BJP. I mean, I would like to see a machine which, because of malfunctioning, votes for Congress or for some other party. So that is very strange. I'm not saying that BJP is, I'm not questioning BJP, I'm not raising questions about BJP or Election Commission, but it seems strange to anybody.
Okay.
And therefore it should be investigated, and let there be, say, 20% or 25% of VVPATs be counted, and
how
let
would
everybody
you,
be satisfied.
Mr. Siddiqui, before I go back to Mr. Taneja here, how would you respond to what the BJP has been saying about this? They give it a political color, saying that all of these political parties that go to the Election Commission or the Supreme Court and get rejected there, and also those political parties happen to be all on the anti-BJP side. They say, as you heard Mr. Naqvi say right now, Honorable Minister, that they seem to have accepted their defeat. They're looking for quote-unquote bahanas or excuses now. Now, that is not technically true. As you pointed it out, the BJP used to do it in 2009. Mr. Narasimha Rao wrote a book on it. L.K. Advani ji wrote a foreword in that book. So there have been concerns about EVMs right down to 2009, 2008. Do you think the political answer the BJP gives
parties,
that this is a bahana?
Except Congress.
Yes. Mr. Siddiqui, before I go to Mr. Taneja.
No, it may be a bahana or may not be a bahana, but what I can see as an observer is that if this kind of complaints are coming time and again, in Kerala we see a large number of machines not working properly. Now we are receiving this problem that in Kerala, because of the rains, the machines are not working properly. In some other, in Rajasthan, because of the heat, they are not working properly. In some other parts, because of the cold, they are not working properly. That means machines can go wrong. And delaying of polling also affects the elections. If a person comes to vote and has to go back, he may not come back. So he's been denied his vote.
Okay,
or
I want to ask Mr. Taneja this.
He may not be able to wait
Mr.
for 2 hours.
Taneja,
So
a normal question that arises here, not just because of what Mr. Siddiqui is saying.
It's the duty of the Election Commission.
Okay, the normal question that arises here is, what were the VVPATs used for in the first place? They were there to make sure transparency and accountability increases. Now, the statements coming out of not just the government here, but also, Mr. Taneja, the EC is that they require additional manpower. They don't have that kind of manpower. It will lead up to delays of hours, perhaps even days in counting. Are those acceptable statements, sir? If, as Mr. Akhilesh Yadav says, an exercise that the country goes to polls at a cost of 50,000 crore rupees, what is an extra hour in a day? What is the problem?
No, the issue is not that. First of all, I'm not here to defend EVM or go against EVM. That's for the Election Commission and various political parties, including BJP. Now, the point here is different. You see, when we lost Rajasthan, we lost Madhya Pradesh, we lost Chhattisgarh, did we blame EVM for that? We didn't. And if the Congress party, the opposition think they won all these 3 states, because the EVMs were not functioning well, they should resign from all these states, call for fresh elections, then come and blame EVM. Now the point is, when you're losing election, you blame EVM. When you win election, you are celebrating. It's not going to work.
But
and
didn't the BJP do the same thing in 2009, sir?
Congress party, during Rajiv Gandhi's time.
But didn't the BJP do the same thing, sir? In 2009, Mr. Rao came up with an entire book on how EVMs are a threat to democracy.
Let me answer it. Let me answer it. First of all, GVL, that was GVL's book as an individual. That was not book written by BJP or published by BJP. Number one. Number two is, there is a huge difference in technology and everything between 2009. We are talking 10 years. Technology in between has, has moved to a completely different stage. It's a technology which EC claims that is the best one in the world. But if you have issues with that, like Shashi Tharoor was saying the EVM is not functioning because he knows he's going to lose the election. And it's a communist government in power in Kerala. It's not a BJP government. The local government, the officer in charge, the machinery in charge is all, in the hands of the leftist government there. It's still, he was blaming BJP for that. Now the point is, if you think that you have some issues on that, why didn't you go to Election Commission 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and open the conversation with the Election Commission?
Well,
why
I think the
now?
conversation has been on for a while, sir. And I also want to Taneja Saab, I also want to tell you what former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi has said about this.
Today you are on the rooftop and
since you mentioned the technology, sir, let me just...
You see, Mr. Qureshi, with all...
since you mentioned the technology having grown from 2009 to 2014, let me just quickly tell you what former Chief Election Commissioner of India, S.Y. Qureshi, said about it. And he has admitted that there is malfunction. And I'm going to quote him exactly so that nobody can say I'm making this up. He has given an interview after interview in which he says that the Election Commission itself had conducted a performance review of the machines, which showed that while the aggregate malfunction rate for EVMs was 5%, that for VVPAT machines was around 11%. So there is malfunction, and even though the Election Commission and the former CEC might be talking in terms of aggregate numbers, there is still a chance that malfunction happens, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I was covering the Western UP election, sir, and I saw in that particular booth there were 2 EVMs, and the one EVM couldn't function for close to 2 hours because the VVPAT trails were not working or the machine was malfunctioning. And we've received reports from all over the country of massive malfunction. Now, even the EVM, if it is very soon replaced by the Election Commission, I am not questioning the Election Commission here. What I'm questioning, sir, is the reticence. If somebody has a doubt, either on malfunction or on tampering or overall on the VVPATs as well, is it not the Election Commission's duty and its job to make sure that even if it takes a couple of more days, but if it satisfies every political party as far as VVPATs are concerned, in terms of accountability, in terms of transparency, in terms of absolute impartiality, isn't it the EC's duty to get that extra manpower, put in those extra man hours, and let everyone be at rest about the impartiality of the Indian election, the world's largest and proudest democracy? Is the question. Mr. Vivek Silas, before I go back to Mr. Taneja, I want to ask you, and he also pointed out that opposition parties who won these elections in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan, in Chhattisgarh, why did you not question the result then? Why did the Congress party, for example, not question the result then? The BJP could have come out and said that this is a result of malfunction. They did not say that. They accepted the result. Why are the opposition parties then doing this?
Mr. Khan, if you look at what happened in Madhya Pradesh, even just before the election, in front of an IAS officer, the EVM was malfunctioning. I definitely agree with Mr. Siddiqui. Why it only happens that the button is being pressed somewhere and the vote is going to the Bharatiya Janata Party? Why not to anyone else? If you see in Uttar Pradesh, you were covering the Western UP and you said yourself what was happening there. What happened in Bijnor on booth number 16 and booth number 2? What happened yesterday in Badaयूं on booth number 312 and 313? Actually, it's not the question of the Bharatiya Janata Party or the Samajwadi Party or any other political party for that matter. It's a question of the trust. It's a question of a healthy democracy. That is what we feel. If you go to the rural areas in Uttar Pradesh, even a micro voter will question the Election Commission, and they have started. The Election Commission is started losing credibility in the masses of India. So this is a question of credibility as well as trust. People should know where they are voting. They should be assured They should be sure that where they are voting, the vote is going to the right party. That is what we feel. And Election Commission and Honorable Supreme Court definitely must take some action for the
The Supreme Court has been apprised of the issue, sir. I'm going to come to that in just a bit, because the Supreme Court, all these 21 opposition parties did go to the Supreme Court and asked for 50% manual counting of VVPAT trails. The Supreme Court only gave them a little bit, except for one particular EVM in an assembly segment. Now there are 5, according to the Supreme Court, as directed by them. The EC has agreed to that. But now the opposition parties are saying that is nowhere near enough, and we'll discuss that after the break with my guests, Mr. Siddiqui, Mr. Taneja and Mr. Silas. Short break right now on Newsnight. We'll come back and discuss a bit more. All things election right here. Welcome back. You're watching Newsnight. Shahid Siddiqui, the simple question is, when the last time these parties went to the Supreme Court, they got not 1 but 5 EVMs out of one assembly segment. Now they're saying it's nowhere close to enough because there are doubts about accountability, transparency, and also tampering and malfunction. Last time around, the Supreme Court struck down their appeal. What makes these opposition parties think that this time around the Supreme Court or even the EC will have a different view? Because last time the Supreme Court had very clearly said it is under the EC's purview and they're not questioning at all. And by that I mean the Supreme Court is not questioning the checks and balances put in place by the EC themselves.
Because EC told the Supreme Court that it won't be possible for them to count more VVPATs. And now ball is in the court of the Election Commission. If Election Commission wants, I believe that it can take the decision that it will count many more VVPATs. It can count, say, 20% of VVPATs or 30% of VVPATs. I don't think Supreme Court is going to stop them from doing that. And secondly, one more point, Mr. Taneja talked about technology. Now today technology has developed so much that in America everybody is worried that their elections were hacked by the Russians. The technology is so developed that even when my phone is off, or we are told that even when my fridge or TV is used to monitor what's happening in my home.
So I take the point of technology, yes, I take the point of no digital technology being unhackable. But to that, Mr. Taneja, I'll give you a chance to respond. Also, just qualified by saying what Mr. Qureshi said about the technology. He said that EVMs are like calculators, which are solid-state devices with long, trouble-free performances. And VVPATs are analogous to printers, which are electromagnetic devices having moving parts and therefore encounter more frequent issues. He also said, Mr. Taneja, that the Election Commission, whenever notified, tries to make sure the problem is resolved in quick time, but that doesn't happen all the time. So my question to you, Mr. Taneja, would be, if the BJP or any other political party or any other entity in this country wants the voting electorate of this country to be absolutely tension-free and have full faith in the voting system of our largest and proudest democracy in the country, what is a couple of more days or what is a couple of more hours or some few hundred more men and women to make sure that everybody goes home satisfied?
Well, that's a very tall order. They're going to complain regardless. We lost in Madhya Pradesh. They won. They still complain. Now they know they're going to look. This is all a political thing. It's not technical. EVM is not an online, equipment. It's not. It's not connected, so you can't hack it. It's not possible. It's very different from a mobile phone that you have in your hand. But as I said, it's not my job to defend Election Commission. I'm not here to defend EVM. I'm not here to defend Election Commission. The point here is that all that noise that you're hearing from, Congress party, 21 other party, because most of them, they know what's going to happen on the 23rd of May. They're making a political point. And you talked about Mr. Qureshi. Yes, he's a former, Election Commissioner. I hold him in very high esteem. But we have seen that he's more critical, since we came to power. And there was also reports
but he hasn't said anything bad about the EVMs. He reposed full faith in the EVMs.
That's not true.
No.
He's reposed full faith in the EVMs.
You don't allow me to complete. That's the problem.
No, go ahead.
It's 1 versus 2 and you're not giving me.
Please
Let's have a fair debate.
Please complete.
Let's have a fair debate.
Please
I'm not one of those who just come here and sit and listen to your long question and you don't. I want to have a fair debate. Be a fair umpire.
Please complete.
A fair umpire. If you called me, give me time.
Sir, please
Now
complete.
the point I'm making is all these 21 parties in the middle of the election, they are going there because they know they're going to lose election. They are losing. On 23rd of May, you will agree with me. They are losing. Samajwadi Party, Congress Party, Trinamool Congress, most of these parties are going to lose election. So they are basically preparing the workers, they're preparing themselves, and they're looking for a scapegoat. They're going to blame EVM. We didn't. That's the point.
All right.
At the same time, if there are issues, it's very important all political parties must go and have conversation with the Election Commission once the elections are over.
All right, so it's a bahana, says the BJP. They're preparing ground or laying the ground, Mr. Silas, all these opposition parties, because they are going, or at least they've seen the writing on the wall, says the BJP spokesperson, that they're going to lose on the 23rd of May. Is that the case really, or is it about trust in democracy, trust in institutions, and trust in the largest electoral process anywhere in the world? Mr. Silas, 30 seconds.
Yes. Who's Mr. Taneja to decide who's losing and who's winning? He is no one to decide who's losing, who's winning. It's the people of the country who will decide who's going to win.
All right, it's the people of the
country
country that will decide. Unfortunately, I have to cut you short. I'm completely out of time here. Thank you, Mr. Salas. Mr. Taneja, thank you for joining us. And Shahid Siddiqui. This election commission will be in the news. Mind these words even after the 23rd of May. I thank all my guests for joining us here on Newsnight. I've been Athar Khan. Thank you for joining us.